I have a microphone that you wouldn't be able to see. But here's the thing. When I'm doing podcasts, I like to hear my voice and I like the feeling that this microphone setup gives me. So I'm going to wear it because I enjoy the feeling of it. And if you've watched or listened to much of what I'm putting out there, feeling is a big part of it. And so today, I'm going to try something a little different and see how it feels. And in all probability, I'll share it with you. Because today, I'm going to read you something that I wrote, an article that I titled Embodying the Sacred. And to give a little context, this article is talking about a practice that I've put into place that is a huge, a huge catalyst for change within my life. Has been, continues to be. Makes me is not the right way to say it. It gives me a lens through which to question the world in a way that is both constructive and compassionate. And it gives me a lens through which to deconstruct the patterns that I see in the world with a methodology that leads me back to a root that allows me to respect everything. And so I'm going to read this. I may give a little bit of thoughts at the end. I might not. We'll see. It's not a short article. It's also not exorbitantly long. But yeah, I want to share it with you. So here it is. And I am going to read it. So if you're watching this, I'll do my best to give you a little bit of my attention through the eyes from time to time. But bear with me because the words do need to be read. I don't have them memorized, nor do I feel a need to memorize them. Here it comes. I don't recall where the thought first popped up for me. It was probably in the flow of words during either a writing or speaking session. It's an idea that for me is revolutionary. Embodying it fully will literally change everything. I won't claim to be there yet. I struggle with it at times. But more and more I am finding myself able to remain in it. The idea, that is. The space that is easiest for me to bring myself deep into this revolution of the soul, as I've come to call it, is out in nature. Walking barefoot through the grass, smelling the eucalyptus trees and the ocean breeze, hearing the song and cry of the birds flying by, feeling the connectedness of this earth we call home. For me, this natural space drives home the reality of this idea more fully than any lesson I've ever been taught. Then I move back into civilized society. Civilized society. I see the people hurrying by one another on the roads, cutting each other off, honking, crashing, even killing. It's hard to see it. I watch people at the store rushing, pushing their carts past others with barely a glance, interacting in a state of rushed annoyance, more concerned with time and money than with the environment they are co-creating with the people moving around them. I witness adults bullying children. I watch as those whom we rely on to protect and educate the children instead shame them. I see principals and teachers unable to interact with compassion toward their students. I feel the pain of the students as they struggle to find their way in a world that does not value their thoughts, feelings, or desires, but instead seeks to fit their multidimensional shaped selves into a neat little square box. I feel the pain of the educators too. Unappreciated, overworked, unsupported. So many have had the spark of inspiration that led to their career choice stripped from them through the burdensome systems that chain them into the confines of bureaucratic societal demands. I see all of this, and my idea wavers. Yet I feel in my bones that it is true. It feels like the truest way to be, this idea that's come to me. I began opening myself to the possibility that all of these aspects of the world that would be so easily labeled as bad or negative might in fact be something else altogether. Maybe everyone is doing the best they can with what they have. Maybe I can see the beauty in the struggle going on everywhere I look. This idea isn't new to the world. It's been a component of spiritual teaching since time immemorial. Jesus knew it. Or at least that's what I hear from those who have looked deeply at his teachings from a scholarly viewpoint. I know that many Buddhist and yogi teachers have come and gone who realized it in their own way, with their own words. The New Age spiritualists in many cases have come to a similar realization. The idea for me didn't come from another person. I'm sure that speaking, reading, listening, and watching the teachings of others played a role in setting the stage for me to come to this realization, but in the end, I needed to find my own understanding, my own words. Each day that I practice holding this idea, my life becomes a little brighter. As yesterday's Yogi Teabag reminded me, be the lighthouse. It's cheesy and very fitting for the space I find myself in currently. It's important to integrate the word practice here. This idea is a revolution in being. It runs counter to the entire cultural dichotomy that I've grown up in. The shift isn't going to happen in an instant. Not for me, anyway. Practice is what allows me to move more and more fully into a new way of being, which is aligned with this new and mysterious idea. Practice isn't about being perfect. It's about seeking perfection and learning from the path toward that elusive point. Maybe perfection is an attainable destination. Maybe it's not. For me, the destination isn't as important as the journey, the practice. Every day I sit in the practice of implementing this idea of mine, I learn. As one who practices, I am embodying the archetype of the student. I am allowing myself to be curious. The idea has sparked curiosity within me. It helps me to remember to ask questions about my environment and the others who are walking on their life's path around me. This idea is helping me to be a better human in every conceivable way. You may be wondering when I'll get to the point and share this revolutionary idea with you. I hope that the words I've shared thus far have allowed your own curiosity to be aroused. I promise I'll get there. I'll share my idea. We're getting closer. Growing up in the United States, I was told a story. A series of stories, really. But there's a common story that many of these tales moves within. It's potentially the most destructive story ever told. You've probably heard it. It's a story of good and bad. Cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians. Please forgive the political incorrectness of this old phrase. Hero and villain, and so many more. In these stories, there is a message to the young minds forming under their tutelage. For stories have always been our teacher. A message that states clearly there is a good and bad, right and wrong, acceptable and unacceptable way to be. There's a good chance that even now the problem with these stories isn't obvious. It took me a long time and a lot of thought exploration with my new idea in the background to realize the issue at hand. We are creating dichotomy and polarization unnecessarily. We are creating war. We may not see it. It's not obvious at first. It's so subtle, so deeply buried within the fabric of our society. To uncover it, we have to dig. We have to search and seek. We have to embrace curiosity. Once it's been seen, it cannot be unseen. It's fucking everywhere. Every time we say something or someone is good, another component of reality becomes bad. This is not wrong. It's not right. It simply is. Perhaps there is a time and a place in which these poles of bad and good can be created without simultaneously creating discord. Perhaps. although it seems, in my observation, that more often than not, this is not the case. Our stories label the proverbial other as bad, dangerous, evil, that which we should fear and defend against. There are understandable reactions to things that seem foreign to us. They are, in fact, genetically programmed survival mechanisms. They are also the stories that have led us into death, destruction, abuse, and catastrophe in all forms since time immemorial. These stories are so ingrained in our society that we have literally internalized them at the neurological level. The modern science of psychology has found ample evidence of this. We literally create a reality for ourselves, our children, our brothers and sisters, in which aspects of humanity, you and me, are the enemy. It seems important to highlight the depths of this issue here. We are human. Contained within us is a common genetic ancestry with all other humans. We feel in the same ways. We experience and interact in the same fundamental patterns. We literally come from the same place. The modern study of anthropology has shown this unequivocally. When we create a human enemy in our consciousness, be it a component we are aware of or not, we create an enemy within ourselves as well. I mean this literally. Every human in existence today is connected through our common humanity. Every action that we see as outside of ourselves, unthinkable, wrong, unimaginable, etc., is something that an aspect of ourselves is capable of. This is true on the more traditionally positive or experiential spectrum as well. To clarify, I do not mean to imply that we are all likely to embody monstrous possibilities, only that the potential for these actions or inactions does in fact reside within us. This is not speculation. It is a statement as close to objective fact as one can get about the subjective human experience. When we create the idea that any human action is bad or good, we simultaneously label an aspect of ourselves bad or good. What do our stories tell us about bad and good? The bad must fight the good. The good must fight the bad. We create war within us. Look around. It may be easier to see outside of the self at first. Everywhere we look, we have created labels that indicate bad and good. Everywhere we go, everything that we do, for so many of us, we fight with the polarities we have created through stories. What if there was a different way to do this thing called life as a human? What if we could change the stories we tell into a less black and white polarization? What if experience doesn't have to be good or bad? What if there exists a spectrum of being that, when allowed, can exist in harmony? What if pain, suffering, loneliness, despair, anxiety, illness, death, and all of the other states of being we fight so hard to avoid experiencing could be viewed through a different lens, a different story? This is the idea. This is the practice that I've begun to engage in. This is my revolution of the soul. A new story, or to use the catchphrase of this generation, a new paradigm. What if every single experience, every single moment of every single day, in every single way, for every single individual was capable of being treated as sacred? What would that look like? In this context, my working definition for sacred is as follows. Sacred, that which is worthy of the utmost respect. I've found moments of embodying this. It is the most beautiful experience I have ever taken part in. This is especially true of the darker end of the emotional spectrum. It allows me to feel every feeling imaginable and to stay in a place of allowance and beautiful surrender. It allows me to cease the war within myself. It allows me to remove myself from the war we each experience every day as we move through the society in which we live. It allows me to find peace. Nothing has ever felt so important to me. Whether you're watching or listening, the emotion that I feel here is obvious. There's tears streaming from my face, but my eyes are open because to me, this emotional reality within which I am sharing these words is sacred. Now, there was a story in my past where sharing these tears with another, even sharing these tears with myself, was disallowed. I didn't respect it. I neglected it. I pushed it down, and fuck, did it hurt for years. And this is just one example of the war that I personally have waged on myself. Because these tears, this emotion, it's always been there. There's never been a time where there wasn't an emotional component to my reality. And yet, there was a time in which I would do my best to suppress it, not to show it. And based on my experience of our society in the United States, perhaps beyond, based on my experience of other humans, I'm not alone in this. It's not just a man thing either. There are so many of us that have suppressed ourselves, feeling just being one of the ways that we've done this. But how could we suppress anything if we viewed it as sacred? That which is worthy of the utmost respect. What do we do with that which we respect? We give it space. We give it time. We give it a voice. We examine it. We stare at it in awe and wonder. We sit with it and we ponder. So, my invitation to you as I finish with these words that I'm sharing, my invitation is to look into your life. Look at the struggle. Look at the strife. Find the places where you are not seeing the sacred and ask yourself why. And I promise you that if you practice learning how to see the sacred in every situation, every experience, every moment, your life will shift. I won't promise that it will be easy. I won't promise that it will feel light all the time. But what I can say is that for me, my plight, that darker spectrum of emotional reality, feels more constructive. I'm more able to move through it with ease, with clarity, with openness, with love, when I treat all of it with the respect of the sacred. So thank you for taking the time to listen to my story and my rhyme. Thank you for being willing to sit here with me and to be curious about the experience of another. I love you. And when I say that, what I mean is I respect you as the sacred, infinite being that you are. near or far. I love you all.